Now the rangefinder is somewhat more complex than a rangefinder on a Retina IIIS camera, because we have our rangefinder, basic rangefinder mechanism here, but we've also got the frames mechanism, where there's a parallax correction and a frame selector over here. So there's quite a bit of dismantling needs to go on here to get this all apart. First of all, I want to get that screw there out. So I'll just loosen that up. Take the screw off the top. Where are we in the picture? We only just I'll take the screw off there, the wavy washer, let that spring round and lift the arm off. It's got the bush in there. Here's the body of the rangefinder, and there's various things I want off this before I try to clean it. This couples through to the rangefinder arm. We've got multiple pieces here. That's a bit sticky with dried out grease. So all of those pieces need to be cleaned. Now this whole piece here, I really want that out, otherwise things will get damaged. To get at it, I'm just pushing this mirror back, sliding that back out of the way so I can get at these two screws. And those two screws clamp this mechanism into the front of the rangefinder body. Usually that's locked in with a little spot of lacquer top and bottom, and in this case it's not. Oh, it might have been once upon a time. But they're gone anyway, the lacquering's gone. This is stripped down now, and this can be cleaned in the ultrasonic cleaner. First off, I'll just give it a quick wipe with some solvent here, just to remove any grease from it, so that that's not contaminating the cleaning solution when I'm cleaning it. Otherwise I'll just end up transferring grease and oil from the body of this thing onto the mirrored surfaces that I'm desperately trying to clean very gently. Our eyepiece lens here, at the rear of that, we can take the shield off that, the retainer. That's just glass. We can clean that lens separately. Just tip that out. So what have we got left in here? Well, this is a front surface mirror. You can't really go touching that with anything. This here is a semi-silvered mirror. This surface facing me towards the front of the camera, that's plain glass. The silvering's on the back of the glass. If I clean that front surface now, it means that I am not having to over clean the finder in the ultrasonic cleaner to get filth off, if most of the filth is on this outside face. We do not want this in the cleaner any longer than necessary, because the silvering will get cleaned right away. And most of the dirt here is going to be on this front face. There's nothing surer. The rest of it will have a lot less on it. Okay, that's stripped down, and that I can go away and clean in the ultrasonic cleaner. While I'm here, I'll clean this arm up. That's got an extra, it's that screw that you see here. That's something that you put in temporarily when you're installing the rangefinder in the camera, and it locks the rangefinder arm out so that you can wiggle it in easier. That shouldn't have been left there. That suggests that someone had put that in when they were servicing the camera and they forgot to take it back out. It probably meant that the rangefinder was a little bit stiff in its action. Might have even stuck occasionally. That's a bit funny to find. Well, I'm pleased to see it in one way because I can never find a suitable screw to do that job when I want to use one. So at least I've got one now. So just quickly cleaning up these components here with a bit of naphtha, so that when I come to reassemble them, they'll be ready to go. You can see the amount of grease and dirt that's coming off these. That's mostly graphite grease, I would think. But it's excessive. And most of it's not doing anything useful. It's not on the contact surfaces where the mechanical components would be rubbing on each other. It's just decorating the side. So here I'm just running around those shoulder screws to remove the grease and rubbish that's on those. Got 3 shoulder screws, they're all the same. Okay, those bits look quite good to me. Let's clean that screw. Clean the wavy washer. Just about all of this I'm going to lubricate very lightly with molybdenum paste when I'm ready to go. And this is the piece here that's got our frame lines in place, and the mask moves up and down to expose or hide frame lines as it goes. Now the frame lines themselves are just on a piece of gelatin. It's a bit of film for all practical purposes. If I was to put this through the ultrasonic cleaner, that would blast all that away. It would be a bother and a nuisance. It would be ruined. I'll go away and clean this, come back and ready to assemble things. Alright, time for some reassembly. Now I can see there's a chip out of the rangefinder at that point. I don't know when in the camera's life that happened. Certainly didn't happen under my watch, but there you go. So I've just cleaned this surface of the rear eyepiece glass because it's difficult to clean both surfaces at once, handle it and get it in place dust free. So I clean the curved surface, the convex surface first, put that in place, then clean the flat surface, the outside surface. Hold that carefully in place with my finger and put the fixing screw in at the top for the retainer. Check that I haven't put a fingerprint on the lens while I was doing it. No, that all appears good. The mirror I'd slid backwards while I was moving something, and I'll probably slide it backwards and forwards while I'm getting things organised. This spring here returns our frames to the correct spot. It's a bit bent out of shape at the moment. I'll just bend that back where it should be. And this frame selector should go back in the body. It slides down here. I'll lift that spring up so that it's not trapped underneath it. It's doing its best to get trapped. That's sitting pretty much in place. Now that should be sitting up level with the front of this frame here. I'll just slide that mirror back slightly so I can get to those 2 screws. Check that they're level. That looks good. Tighten the 2 screws up. check again. Check that that looks like it's central there. That looks good. Now I'm going to put a spot of clear lacquer here and here so that that piece doesn't move. The way the bracket's organised, the tighter you do the screws, the tightening up the screws doesn't really do an awful lot. Once you get beyond a certain point, the bracket just starts to bend. You get no more tension, you just end up with a bent bracket. So taking a spot of clear nail varnish there and there, it'll stop those from moving. And I've got to get the frame selector, the parallax stuff back in here. Okay, so starting with this piece, I'll give that a wipe with molybdenum paste very lightly where the two shoulder screws run through it, and see if I can get that in place. It picks up a slot in this piece here, which is there, and get two of the screws in position. Check that it is coupled correctly in this spot. Yeah, it is. I'll have to go back and check that again. I suspect the arm on that might be slightly bent. It may, I've got to make sure it's not prone to falling out of position, which it could be. Oh, that seems to be okay. I was a bit concerned that this is falling away from it and it might not stay in position. That seems okay, and the return spring at the top appears to be doing its job. Right, well, I'll nip those two screws up tight. Check that action again. There's quite a pronounced scratch on that there. I don't know what that's from. I'm just looking to see if this is under tension sideways. No, it's not. Otherwise, if it would cock over, it might tend to stick there, but no, it appears to be fine. And this is the lever that, in turn, moves that piece. And there's a shoulder screw that runs through there. That seems to be good. Those three screws are tight. That part's fine. The rangefinder arm, I've cleaned the glass on that just with using a cotton bud and normal domestic glass cleaner. That's looking good. I'll take some molybdenum paste. Run once round the inside here where that brass bush runs. Push the brass bush into position. Normally I just give that a light wipe on that top surface. Don't want much, wants very little of this. And this hole on the front here, that's where the spring pokes through. I'll just put a smear through there for good measure. Get where you can see what's happening there, that'll do. And I'll hook this into place. Right, let's put a wipe around the top here where our wavy washer is going to go. Where is the wavy washer? There it is. Take the screw, drop that in there, take a suitable pair of tweezers, run that screw down, the washer's just shifted its position. Let's get it tucked back under correctly. Check that that moves smoothly, it seems to. Tighten it up, make sure it's still moving smoothly, and use my spanner to tighten that screw right up so I don't damage my tweezers doing that job. Right, this slot here couples to the top of this pin here, and I'm just going to look out the window and see what I see. Yeah, well, I've got a good rangefinder image there, so I'm quite happy with the state of that. I think that can go on the camera body. Then I'll make my adjustments. I've dropped my rangefinder into the body. First of all, I compressed the rangefinder against its return spring and tightened up that temporary screw that had come free with it. I've got my rangefinder in. Now the frame selector dropped straight into place, no arguments at all. I haven't tightened up my fixing screws yet, I'm just about to do that. So the two fixing screws are in, they went in with no fighting or fuss, and I can do those two screws up tight. Now that temporary screw here, I'm just going to hold this back with my finger here and loosen that screw off, and the rangefinder is popped out into its normal operating position. And if you pressed on the pin at the front of the camera here, you'll see the rangefinder move, that front piece move. So the rangefinder is fitted. I don't know about its adjustments yet, and I want to fit a lens on the front of the camera so that I can check that the frame selector and so forth is working. So that's my next task. Well, here I've got a good selection of lenses to check against the camera. Standard 50mm, 35, 85 and 135. So I'll work my way through these and see if the frames that are selected come up as expected and make adjustments as required. There's not much for you to see here, so I'll report back when and if I find things I need to adjust. Well, the frames are certainly not selecting as they should. Now my adjustment for my frame selector is over here at this point. So I'll slacken that lock screw there and make my adjustments at this point. My frame selection is now adjusted correctly. That's working well. I've got different frames for my different lenses. My view rangefinder adjustment is here. At the moment it's not quite correct. It's very close, but it's not quite correct. So I've got to loosen up the lock screw which is here, and my adjustment is made there. And it's only the horizontal adjustment that's out. The vertical alignment looks good. So I'll just check this out the window. It doesn't quite come to infinity. Let's try moving it that way. And that was the wrong way. Let's try moving it that way. That's good. It's just slightly too much, I think. Oh, that's almost. Lock it there and see what it looks like. Sometimes when you lock the thing up, sometimes that'll just shift it slightly. So you always need to check it before and after locking it. That all appears to be pretty good to me. I'm quite happy with the state of that rangefinder. So that means the top of the camera can be closed up. Check one thing. I need to check to make sure that the shutter release releases at the appropriate time. Rangefinder's done. Let's put the top cover back. Oh, I've got to do something else yet, but let's do the shutter release first. Get the timing of that correct so that the film advance unlocks at exactly the same point in the travel of the shutter release that the shutter fires. So I'll put this full size top cover back on here while I'm working. Will that fit over the rangefinder? I don't know that it will. No, it won't. Okay. Scrub that idea. Where is the top cover? We'll put the top cover of the camera on there while I'm thinking about this. Here we go. And what I'm interested in is what point the film advance releases relative to the shutter. The shutter released, the film advance didn't. So I know that the adjustment needs to be made so that the film advance releases earlier, which means backing up the screw on the top of the release shaft. I can get to that past the meter down here, but it's awkward. If I can get the screwdriver in there, I can just adjust that half a turn or so.